So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Industry Insights. My name is Gethin Roberts from ITERATE. We are a purpose-driven product design consultancy based here in the UK. And today I'm joined by Laurie Rowe from RED MedTech. Good afternoon, Laurie.
Hello, how's it going?
Good, good. How's your day been so far?
It has been interesting and busy. So I'm winning. So far, we're winning as far as
Good,
Thursdays go.
good, good. And the weather's fantastic. Well, certainly in southeast Wales. I'm not sure about West Wales. Is it the same?
Yes, it is gorgeous out there. It's really warm and bright. It's beautiful when it's like this.
Good. Okay, so first of all, thanks for joining us today, and thanks for everybody that's dialing into Industry Insights. I can see there's quite a few people that are joining us live, and I think that we've had a record number of bookings. So, people are clearly interested in med tech and what potentially RED MedTech can offer them themselves. But I'm keen to get straight in. And for those, Laurie, that are maybe not familiar with yourself or RED MedTech, can you give us a quick overview of what you actually do and the type of clients that you work with?
Yeah, sure. So essentially my background is in product design, development engineering, and I got into medtech 20 odd years ago. And so what we do is we're applying that knowledge and experience and expertise to help a range of both medical device and in vitro diagnostic companies. We help companies all over the globe, so it doesn't necessarily matter where they're based. We're based, as you said, in Carmarthen in West Wales, but we deliver our projects remotely to companies internationally. And what we do is we help them predominantly with their program management, their project management for various types of projects. And so they cover both the development engineering aspects, evolving products and getting those through to market. It might be that they've got a product that exists already and they need to either they're doing a line extension or some other kind of project with an existing product. Or it might be that they need things like a compliance project, so quality management systems, regulatory compliance. So we kind of offer that holistic service range to help them, to sort of realize their business objectives associated with their product.
So I know that because we first met maybe 10 or 15 years ago. So, and we've got a similar sort of background, but how did you decide, or how did you come to specialize in the medtech sector?
Yeah, so it was a bit of an interesting one. So like yourself, I'd done product design and design for manufacture orientated degree course, and I really wanted to work with products that people interacted with physically. So much more on the hardware back then, because it's a long time ago. So we didn't have so much on like AI and software as a medical device, etc. So I wanted to work with products that people physically interacted with. And I'd done a stint working for a tooling manufacturer and precision engineering company, because I'm actually originally from Sheffield. So that scene is very, very strong cutlery and trade association, so blades and again like precision engineering. So that was originally my background, was in designing those kinds of products, precision metrology, magnetics, tooling and equipment. And looking at not just the products, but also manual task automation, machine building, and things like that, the productionization environment. And so I ended up with an opportunity with a company in Leeds that did sort of micro, very small, minimally invasive surgical products for like keyhole surgery. And they got other products as well, but it was a good fit because it was things that people interacted with physically. So they were graspers, there were surgical apparatus, and there was that like precision element to it as well. So all that experience that I built up with the product design side and the productionization side of it went really well with kind of the med tech side of it. And then obviously you got that extra layer then with the rigor and things. So that's kind of how it started, was leveraging an existing skill set into a new sector. And then once I got into it, I just totally fell in love with it, to be honest. And well, hence I've been here for such a long time then. So it was an interesting route through.
What is it in particular then that you love about medical technology? What sort of drives that passion?
I think it's people. So I think it's because you're working with teams of people on things that are, and it's difficult, I like that, but
Yeah.
it's challenging. It tends to be at the cutting edge of innovation. So you're dealing with quite often or quite frequently new technologies that might have come out of a university or been developed by an advanced R&D department. And so you're looking to sort of drag that or pull that gently out of R&D and into D&D, into design and development. So from research and development into design and development. And that is hard. It's challenging. Quite often it's not been done before. It might be the first time the company's done it, or it might be the first application of that technology. And so working with the people involved in those teams, working with the surgeons, working with the different types of engineers, working with the end users, working with the patients and the support teams and the healthcare people around that as well. I think that's what I really like, the challenge of it. And because it's very much a team sport. And so, the people are very much centric to what we're doing with the organisation.
Interesting, because I know from our side, what I particularly like is the fact that when you are developing a healthcare or medical product, the end application it has the potential to have huge implications for people, life-saving benefits potentially. And so that, for me, that often sets a project apart, because you're not just designing a widget and developing a widget to get into the market just purely to make money. There's also this kind of social benefit to work on those type of projects, which it's rewarding.
I think the two go in hand. If you build successful products for people, you intrinsically, yes, it does have that commercial element, but you get to impact a lot of people. You're helping people's daily lives get better, or helping them with some course of treatment, or potentially helping them get assigned the right medication to fix something that's been diagnosed with them. And so I think there's that. And if the company then benefits and gets better as that and becomes more of, obviously the commercial side of it, you generate that revenue, you can reinvest that and develop more cool stuff to help more people. So I think there's that kind of, it's that kind of like real opportunity to kind of like make a ding in the universe in that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the key topics that we're trying to talk about today, and probably why so many people have decided to dial into the conversation, is design for compliance. So why do you think it's such a critical topic now?
I'm not disagreeing with you that it is an important topic now, but I don't think it's new. I think it's always been there. So I think it's maybe getting the attention it deserves now. But I think the need to have design for compliance is actually, I think we're increasing awareness of it, but the actual importance of it is quite a long. It's, and it's like when you and I sort of earlier in our career days, I mean, I certainly remember, maybe you're a bit younger than me, but when design for manufacture came around, and it was a thing. It was like people didn't work like that back then. They used to design something and throw it over the proverbial wall.
Absolutely.
And then the manufacturers and production team would be crying about what they'd been lumped with, and that they had to kind of fashion into a silk purse with the design and things, because it wasn't designed for manufacture. And so if you imagine taking that philosophy, and rather than seeing compliance as this like bolt on at the end, and I get it's a later part of the process, but instead of leaving it to the end, you actually set out with that deliberate intent, especially in medtech, is weaving those compliance elements throughout the company and throughout the products that you're producing. You're going to build quality and compliance into your product, rather than then facing a hurdle at the end and potentially challenges and like commercial risk as well.
Okay. And so when in practice, then, when we do talk about design for compliance, specifically, what are we saying?
Sorry, just repeat that last bit, because I think the signal cut out.
Oh, right. So when in practice, when we are talking about design for compliance, what does that actually mean? How does that actually translate through to, activities, tasks, actions in a project, for example?
Yeah, so starting at the beginning, especially, I'm going to talk about specifically about medtech, but this could actually apply to other industries. So
Okay.
it's knowing what certification your product might need to have,
Okay.
what compliance attributes you're looking to attain at the end of the product. So with medtech, evidencing safety and patient safety is critical. Your product won't see the light of day unless it's achieving certain certification or it's going through a regulator, because that's just how the system works, is that we don't allow, as far as humanly practical, unsafe products onto the market. And so there's that hurdle at the end. So when you look at the end and you work backwards, understanding what are the compliance needs for your product, what regulations are there. So let me just step one further, take another step back. Jurisdiction. So your regulations and the demands of your product will vary by jurisdiction. So depending on where you're selling the product, you might have different rules. So let me just set that first and foremost.
Okay.
And then moving on from that, you've got different regulations, you've got different directives, you've got standards, and you've got guidelines. Sometimes guidelines are more, I won't say they can't be mandated because they're guidelines, but there's an expectation around those with the regulators that you would follow them as best practice or maybe like the state of art. And so there's that side of it. So when you work out what you've got to achieve at the end, you can then kind of plan backwards from that and understand what you've got to engineer your product to. So what testing you might have to subject it to, what design standards you might need to follow. And so within our sector, and it may be the same in others, but obviously I've been in medtech for 20 years, so I'm going to speak just around our industry. We have like horizontal standards. So they're like the process standards that you will go to. They're like your frameworks of the methods that you'd apply. And then we have what we call vertical standards. So if I pick on a hip implant, because I used to design instrumentation platforms and implants, they're very specific product standards around that particular type of device. And there's certain attributes and qualities that those products must have and certain tests that you must have. So off the top of my head, I think we used to have like range of motion would be one example for a hip implant. And so you've got to look at all of those, and that sort of gets embedded in the product design itself, so that's how you're weaving in that compliance. And then you've also got things like your quality management system, which is your framework that the company's working to, so that when they're producing that evidence and documentation, it complies with the framework, and so that you're then developing that robust documentation stack. So it's quite a few moving parts, but yeah, that's.
So it sounds as if then, typically the first phase of a project for us is research. We describe it as foresight, but from what you're saying there, that businesses that are developing new products, when they're considering compliance, it needs to be in that very first phase.
Yes. Yeah. So it's identifying, what product are you going to create, understanding what problem that might solve, i.e. clinical need, what's the demand for that, not just obviously the commercial side of it. Tied with the commercial, you're going to understand your market, so geographically, where is this going? And then from there we can start mapping out, okay, if you want to sell into the US, it's going to have to comply with the US FDA regulations and this kind of guidance and these kinds of standards. It's very product specific, and it's also there's a different kind of variables you need to cater for. There's quite a few different things going on, and factors to consider basically when you're sort of building that.
Okay, so one of the questions that we get asked a lot, because we do work with a fair amount of startup businesses, and they struggle to determine whether their product is a medical device or whether it kind of sits in the space of some sort of healthcare, almost consumer technology. This is something that I see a lot of customers grappling with, even when they're considering developing a product in the very early sort of ideation phases of their project. So what advice do you have to those businesses? How does one identify, which camp it sort of sits in?
Yeah, so we call this product type determination. So that's a
Okay.
process that we use. Sometimes it's really clear cut. So again, things like an implant, it's blatantly
Mm,
obvious that what
yeah.
it's intended to do. But there's certain criteria, and again, this does vary slightly by jurisdiction as to
Okay.
what constitutes a medical device. And that's written within the regulations. So we do projects where, similar to yourselves, where you have these borderline um, product types. We help them determine, that's why we execute product type determination, to understand where it sits. And it's connected with not just like what it is and what it does, but who it's for, and also
Okay.
the claims that these companies are doing, because some of these are quite early phase, right? So they've got this idea and they want to make this product and they want to create a company that's going to sell this product or design it and manufacture it, but they've really kind of got to work on what they're, when they present that to the outside world, what are they saying it is and what it does? So the clinical claims and that aspect of it becomes really important. And that's
Okay.
something that we work with companies to kind of decipher. Understanding MVP. So what is the minimum viable attributes that product must have? And you're looking at those claims, and it might be that I go, okay, look at these claims. If I take out that one claim, for example, have you still got a product? Is it still going to deliver? And if they say, well, no, so well, that's a medical claim. So if you want to bring
Okay.
that product to market with that key attribute, you're actually talking about delivering a device to help patients because it's
Mm,
got these certain characteristics. And that
mhm.
means you fall within the regulations. If and there are projects that we support as well, where if you deliberately want to go into the healthcare and wellness, we're then actually engineering the product not to do that. So working around the understanding where those shades of grey are and
Yeah.
working around that to make sure that you don't accidentally fall into something. You're actually very deliberately just doing health and wellness.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah. Because
caveat
that's
by
what.
that by saying that wellness is regulated in some jurisdictions as well. So
Right.
it's not a straightforward topic depending on where you're actually wanting to flog these products.
Like quite a common reference point then for lots of people might be like health, wrist-worn wearable trackers, because they're sold as a consumer product, but yet there's some real high quality data in there that kind of skirts the board of being used for understanding medical conditions potentially for people. So it's like, what's the difference there? So they're they're not saying what that means that they're not a medical device, if that makes sense. What are they claiming or not claiming that means that it's clearly a health product rather than a medical product?
Yeah, there are some subtleties in there, and it does, as I said, it does depend on what jurisdictions that we're talking about. You have essentially two types of claims. You've got implied claims, and then you've got like more open and overt claims. So we need to have a look at those with the clients more in detail, because
Okay.
you couldn't just, I don't know, take something and say it's not a device. Just saying that, just adding that label doesn't make it fact.
Okay.
And that kind of approach doesn't necessarily wash with the regulators either.
Right.
So
See.
it's a case of digging into those individual cases and understanding really what is it doing and what data is being generated, and what is it for? Is it general health and genuine kind of um, fitness related, for example? Yeah, let's pick on sports and fitness rather than say wellness, because that is that little grey kind of word. So we just went fitness. If it's just for that, then yeah, that's perfectly okay. But you still have to look at your claims really carefully to make sure
Mhm.
that you're not falling foul of anything. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's
Okay.
okay.
So I'm keen to move things along, because I'd also like to
Yeah.
a couple of minutes at the end for some questions. So we've talked about designed for compliance, and that's very specific to the actual product that a company might be developing. But if a company is looking to design and launch a medical device, then they do, well, or do they require ISO 13485 accreditation for their quality management system? So the quality management system that they're using in their business to manage the development of the product. Do they have to have that if it's a medical product, or is there kind of not loopholes, but is there limitations as to when they might not need 13485 compliance?
Right, I'm going to apologise by giving a consultant's answer. It depends. It does. It genuinely does. So it depends on what the product type is. And so if we're going to put a device on the market, a lot of the time, depending on the class, so let's assume it's a slightly higher class, it's going to go through a conformity assessment process, and it's going to have a third party essentially auditing it and checking that it's robust and that it's got all the supportive safety information that is needed before you put it on market. Yeah. Part of that assessment is, let's pick on Europe, is looking at your quality management system. And it says in the European regs that you have to have one. Now, what we have in compliance world is a little phrase called presumption of conformity. And so the way that I'm paraphrasing, but roughly the way that the regs work is that you can say, okay, if you follow these harmonized standards, those offer a presumption of conformity that you comply with the regulations. And 13485 is harmonized. There's a whole stack of harmonized standards that go with the regulations, but that is one of the harmonized standards. And so by following that, broadly speaking, you can then comply with those. Obviously, if you're doing a wider targeted market, you're going to need your quality system to comply with not only 13485, but you've got other regulations as well. So what's been quite nice recently is that the FDA have implemented a rule where they've harmonized or aligned with 13485, and that they recognize it. Since the mid-90s until February this year, they kind of had their own terminology and their own terms for quality system regulations, and now it's like more aligned with 13485 essentially. I mean, I've worked with that standard for all my career is like 20 odd years, so for me it's a bread and butter thing that I'd highly recommend. However, technically, depending on the regs that you're applying, because of where you're selling the product, you don't have to have that standard. It might be that you work into 9001. However, will using that standard generate the medical device documentation needed to satisfy the regulations? Chances are no. Why? Because 9001 is a general quality management system, and 13485 is designed for medical device regulatory requirements. So you kind of, if you imagine your general 9001 system and you kind of up your game on it basically, and you kind of augment it to have lots of things associated with medical devices, that becomes 13485. So we can build on it, and then you end up building in rigor. You have things like I haven't checked it recently, but I know there was pages on the NHS website, for example, for software, and it said it's a legal requirement. Now, I've never seen that written as a legal requirement in the law. Myself personally, maybe something's changed and they know something that I don't know, but I haven't seen it written that you have to have that particular standard, just that you have to have one. But again, if that's their take and you're wanting to get your product into the NHS trust and that's their viewpoint, it kind of makes sense that you're going to do what they're stating, and they're setting the bar there, aren't they? So I think it's good practice as well. It's got a lot of good practice embedded within it.
And this is something that you can help businesses with, is that right? At RED MedTech, if a company is wanting to obtain 13485, which from experience I know is a complex journey, but you're able to assist with that.
Yes, absolutely. So from identifying the scope of your quality management system, so what activities your company are going to do, So that one needs to have a strong understanding of that, because it's the activities that you're going to perform, and then understanding, like designing that and understanding what you're going to do and the format, how big's your company, how, what kind of staff you have in that company, what your product is, your activities, the steps involved, and building that entire framework from start all the way to finish, to getting it through stage 1 audit and stage 2 audits, even helping you identify your certification providers, even running requests for quotes and helping you pick that, and understanding the cost, because the costs can vary massively, taking you through that entire process all the way through to the other side where you've got your certificate, and then you kind of get re-audited and you've got to maintain it. So any part of that we can help you with.
Okay, fantastic. I feel like the time that we've allowed for this hasn't given the topic
it's massive, isn't it?
Yeah. But just one final question before we invite any potential questions. AI, artificial intelligence. So how are you seeing this impact your sector, if at all, at the moment?
Where at the moment there's a lot of changes going on. So the regulators acknowledge the fast pace of development of AI, and they're looking at how regulating that was going to sit alongside the medical device regs as well. So you've got broadly 2 types of application. You've got using AI within your business to do your day-to-day business activities, and then you've got AI within medical devices. So things like analysing images, running analysis on big data sets, creating solutions, creating documentation. So it kind of depends how you're going to be using AI as to what's going to apply. But it is a topic that's being reviewed with the standards and regulators as well.
Okay. And so what are you, and it's maybe not a AI question, but what are you most excited about at the moment at RED MedTech?
What, with AI or like the general
No,
sector?
not with AI. No, just generally, what are you most excited about at the moment?
I think I've seen a lot of hardware products at the moment. So we had a big thing with like software. Everything was like a wearable with an app. That trend is calming down now, which I think is kind of, and it's nice to see that lull happening while people figure out the whole AI thing as well, because the rate of that is rapid. I'm seeing some really nice innovations on the materials and the applied side of things and the hardware side. So that, and I think going back to my roots, minimally invasive stuff is good. Some exciting stuff coming out of the diagnostics. So I think very much the apparatus side of it is really cool, and the material technology and still doing more mechanically orientated product design is, I'm seeing that improving quite a lot, which is really good.
Okay, very good. So we were just a few minutes starting late today, so I just want to take a few extra minutes, if that's okay, for a couple of questions. I can see Gary has put his hand up. Good afternoon, Gary.
Oh, you're on mute, Gary.
You're on mute. There we go.
Yeah. First thing, I've worked with Laurie, and she's a fantastic person, and she got us through our stage 1 and our first stage 2 audit. So I've a very hearty recommendation for Laurie and RED MedTech. And secondly, I think, Gethin, you made a massive mistake by only scheduling half an hour. We could have talked for another 45 minutes, I think.
Absolutely.
But Laurie there was talking about ISO 13485, which she got us through, like I've just said. And there's more to it than that as well. So that is ISO 13485. And again, I don't know if I'm preaching to the choir here or not. ISO 13485 is purely how you manage your processes to get from goods in to finished goods out of the door. You then have a whole another layer of where the notified bodies take a look at the products you've actually produced and how safe that is. So that for ISO 13485 makes sure you get a product out of the door that is safe, but then you've then got CEIVD, which is specific to each and every individual product that you put on the market. And I think there's a perfect opportunity for another one of these podcast type things to talk about CEIVD as well. So we're going through that pain point at the moment.
Okay. Thank you. Did you have a question, Gary, or is it just a comment?
It's just basically a comment.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to raise a question? Kate, please, Kate.
Thank you for organizing this. I guess I was wondering if there was any key resources that you would recommend to someone that's wanting to learn a bit more about the compliance process and just in general, like working with a lot of startups. Like, is there somewhere other than, or I guess you guys, but is there somewhere online that has basic resources just to familiarize themselves with what they're getting themselves into, I suppose?
Good resources. I'm going to direct you, if you download our brochure on the website, within that is the RED framework. So it's PDF, but it'll talk you through the stages. And so that'd be good. I think understanding the process, the product development process, would stand you in good stead. Obviously, I don't know your particular product type or indeed where you're selling the product. So it could be that, because there's a lot of what ifs depending on where you want to look. Is it a medical device? Is it a general medical device? So we're dealing with one set of regulations. It might be that it's an in vitro diagnostic, like what Gary's company produce. So in which case you're looking at a different set of regulations. Depending on where you're selling the product, there is going to be different sources of information there as well. To be truthful, off the top of my head, I'm not sure about where to look as somebody just starting out, because I've been in this sector for such a long time. I just learned as I went along, and I learned by doing. So I reading the standards themselves and practical implementation over the course of 2 decades. So I'll have to have a think about, what resources there might be out there to help people that are new to the process to learn, and they're learning for the first time. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Kimon, would you like to ask your question? No. Sorry, have I pronounced that right? Is it Kimon? Would you like to ask a question? No. Okay. Anybody else?
Sorry, I think my mic's messing up. Can you hear me?
There we go. Yeah, we can hear
yeah.
you. We can hear you.
Perfect. So also on the startup space, when do you generally recommend a startup when they're just ideating at the very beginning before implementing, let's say, like ISO 13485, as it's needed for the technical documentation, but realistically, it's quite a big burden to implement that when you're not even sure the idea's got like legs, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So when would you recommend companies to like think about implementing these or like starting that roadmap?
So again, I'm going to reference back to the RED framework that we use. Again, look at that. It's on our website. So within there, we've got phases 1 and 2. So phase 1 is the initiation, opportunity and risk analysis. And that is your early stage evaluation to see if you've got a potentially commercially viable product. So again, it's mapping your minimum viable characteristics, what it must be, what it must do, understanding your user needs. So who are you making this for? Who's going to be interacting with your product? What's the use environment? So where's it going to be used? And I think not just limiting your thoughts when you're like kicking this around and you're challenging this product and this concept of like, oh, it's going to be used in surgery by a surgeon and that is it. It's also thinking more holistically about what are the steps this product will go through from leaving a factory being made to getting there. So mapping the journey of the device as well, and thinking through things like logistics and the sort of wider projects as well, and the project journey. So I think that would be a few sort of pointers I'd give you is, getting a real clear vision for the product. And then that will help inform like user needs and your design inputs, as well as obviously looking at the standards and things like that as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so just to wrap up, Laurie, if anybody wants to carry on the conversation, what's the best way of getting in touch with you?
So we've got a contact form on our website. You can find me on LinkedIn, add me on there. There's our company page on LinkedIn. So there's a few different routes. You could go old school and give us a telephone call. So just different routes through, basically. I'd probably say the easiest is to book a meeting on our website. There's a Calendly link on there, which you can use, and we'll just set up an initial 30-minute conversation to understand your project and your needs and how we might be able to help and what kind of service you might need from us, and take it from there.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, excellent. As I say, I don't feel like half an hour is given the topic justice, but industry insights are meant to be short and sharp, and we aim to cover a variety of different topics across design and manufacturing for our audiences. Thanks very much for your time today, Laurie. It's appreciated.
Oh, thanks, and thanks for Gary as well for popping on and saying those kind words. I really appreciate it.
Fantastic testimonial.
Yeah, have a great rest of the day, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. And so next month, we'll be joined on the 28th of May, Thursday, the 28th of May, and we'll be joined by Philip Johnson, who's an independent design and innovation consultant. So if you'd like to join another half an hour industry insights session, the next one will be available to book in on LinkedIn shortly. So hopefully you'll be able to join us. And Laurie, thanks again. Good to see you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. And thanks all.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.